Avengers! Assemble.
Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Media Man YouTube channel. It's Junior here again, another Road to Doomsday character retrospective, overlook, preview, look in the past, all of those things. And also, once again, looking at how we think, or how I think, the journey this character's taken already in the MCU will then build up to what journey they might have in Doomsday. Focusing specifically on Steve Rogers, the OG Captain America. And looking at another 5 particular things I think help him to kind of create this really awesome character that we've seen through the MCU since the very beginning, since phase 1, and who I think he might end up being in Doomsday. So jumping straight into it, based on, of course, the First Avenger, Captain America 1, we have this really awesome beginning of the character, a genesis of the character, if you will, from being, this idea that the hero doesn't have to look like a hero initially. It's what's inside that's the most important. And of course, if you haven't seen Captain America First Avenger, go and watch it. It's a really good film. But also it gives a really good and strong groundwork to build up who Steve Rogers is as a person. Beginning right off the bat, this whole video is going to have spoilers for almost all of his films, so be prepared for that. But honestly, would you watch these videos if you hadn't already been somewhat involved in the MCU? Anyway, so the First Avenger, he starts off as a kid. Well, he is a kid, but he has this want, this drive to want to help, to want to do more, to help his country, to be able to help people, essentially, and to protect them, even though he's not particularly talented in any physical attributes. Certainly he doesn't have the physical prowess, the abilities to be able to take part and to sign up to becoming a soldier, but he manages to get himself in the door, so to speak. And in that particular moment, you begin to see what kind of person he is. A wonderful scene that demonstrates this is where they're having a training exercise and a grenade is let off and everybody panics and everybody kind of scatters, and he's the first one. He jumps right on top of it and he just sits on it. It doesn't go off, but everyone's like, wow, he sacrificed himself. He was the person who was willing to make that sacrifice straight away, without question, without pause, without thinking of, oh, this could kill me or this could hurt me. Oh, probably gonna get taken down by YouTube for saying those 2 words. This could hurt me. He was the first one to put himself in the line of fire, in the line of danger for others. And it's at that point the doctor who's looking into the super soldier serum, who's trying to create this super soldier, or the perfect soldier. He recognizes that, and it's a really nice quote that he mentions. He said, the perfect soldier is not the strongest man, but the best one. And it was at that time you recognize Steve as that guy. He's the guy who's not powerful and amazing because he gets the super serum. It's the person who he was before he gets the super serum. As we know, the super serum his particular variant of it only enhances what's already there. So if he's already someone who's brave, who's valiant, who's willing to sacrifice himself, who's willing to put himself in positions of protecting others over his own well-being, it was only going to be enhanced after he took the super serum. And I think that's really well done. And that one particular scene is demonstrated really well what kind of person Steve is. And I think that it demonstrates his heroism comes from his character, not from the super serum himself. So even though he's not super powerful, super strong without the serum, he's still someone who has those traits already. And I think that's really cool. So moving on, I think what was really cool, even still looking at First Avenger, how he became Captain America, and then he went from being this kind of symbolic hero to an actual soldier, an actual hero. So yes, he had the super serum and he was just being used as like a propaganda guy. And then when he got the chance to actually get in there and help save his friend, save Bucky, he went from being just some random bod to being the guy who's like, now he's the poster child for actually fighting in this war, as opposed to just being a guy who was like, oh guys, like, you know, support the soldiers, and he changed from being, yeah, like I said, a symbol to a soldier. And I think that will play into Doomsday in a specific way, that he's, every Avenger who's in that film knows him. Whether they know him personally or they know of Captain America, he's that guy, to say the least. He's been around for the longest. Everybody knows, oh, he's the guy who was, you know, in the ice, and then he came off the ice, and then straight away he was fighting Chitauri, and then he was fighting Ultron, and then he was, you know, he's just been at it for all this time. And I think that's a really nice way to kind of demonstrate the longevity of a character who is like that, who is, if they're given the time and the opportunity to continue to fight, to continue to give of themselves, to be that symbol or that power to protect others, they'll keep doing it. That being said, because he's been in it since phase 1, I don't want him to peace out, but I feel like he might, because he had his happy ending in the Endgame, and I don't feel like they're gonna spare him for Doomsday. I would like to believe that they'll just leave him alone and let him, you know, ride off into the sunset again, but I just don't think they will. I have a feeling he's somehow gonna end up having to sacrifice himself, and this time it will cost him his life, but we shall see. Because he was willing to do it from the very beginning, so why wouldn't he be like, oh, you know, I'm gonna do it now when the world is once again at risk? So, oh dear, I shouldn't have said that. Now it's gonna end up happening, isn't it? Let's hope it doesn't. Let's hope it doesn't. So another thing I think that's really cool about Captain America's character, and Loki mentions it in the Avengers. I think it's the first Avengers film. He mentions he's the man out of time, essentially a man who doesn't belong in the place that he's now in. And I think it's wonderfully demonstrated his kind of grieving of who he was, who he remembers himself being, because, you know, when he wakes up from the ice, he's literally waking up from what he remembered to be his present, which is now a long time ago, 70 years, I think, or 70 plus years. But for him, it's like it was yesterday that he had to bring the plane down in the ice and stuff. But now he's got to catch up to all of these things that have changed, all of the different things that have happened to himself, or to not just to him, but to the world that he's in. So the people he used to know, a lot of them are old or they've died off. A lot of the people that he was close to are no longer there. And of course, we still have those two characters who are his anchor points, being Bucky and Peggy. And it's like, oh, one of them is like really crispy, and she lives her whole life without me, even though I made that promise to her I was going to come back and we were going to have that dance, and they never did, and that was really sad. And then Bucky was like, oh, you know, I thought he died because of what happened in the First Avenger. So he's like, he's grieving those relationships, but he's found himself in a position where he's in the modern world. He's trying to catch up with it and keep up with it, and also being surrounded by these people who are like, okay, yeah, now with that world saving stuff you used to do, you still have to do it. We're still doing that. We're still taking part. So I think it's an interesting situation, because it shapes his character in terms of interactions, which I think are always really cool. So it changed over time as the phases went along, but the kind of old-fashioned guy with the young crowd and how it would constantly kind of be this juxtaposition, I think was always quite cool, because he'd be an outsider in a lot of different environments or atmospheres, but his respect for people and their respect for him was always there though. And I think that's quite cool. I think that's probably going to continue on in Doomsday as well. He's a character who just, or a person, let's say, in the MCU, who just commands respect. Not just because he's like, you should respect me because I'm old, but it's more like his resume speaks for itself. His ability speaks for itself. His charisma, his respect for others, the way he carries himself, almost demands that you treat him in a way that's appropriate based on what he says and does, which I think is really cool. Whether Doom will respect that, we don't know, because Doom is someone who's doesn't really think he has an equal in the world. So even someone like Captain America, who'd be like, yeah, you're cool and you're an old guy and you did all those war stuff, but like, you're not that guy in it. Like, I'm that guy, because he always thinks he's the guy. Out of everyone in the universe, Doom's always the guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they have interactions. Doom probably would know, oh, you're that old guy from like from like World War, one of those World Wars or whatever, and like now you're super serum soldier guy, and that's cool. But like I could still mash you up if I wanted to, kind of thing. So it would be cool to see some interactions between them, and of course, Doom having the face at least of Tony Stark. If they do have a face reveal, I think that interaction will be really cool because there was a friendship that blossomed between the two over the entire the entire MCU really. So to see how they then interact when the person you're having to fight has the face of your friend but isn't your friend, it's not him, but he looks like him. How he'll be able to handle that, I think that will be a really really cool moment to see how that kind of pays off, and see how Steve does very rarely loses his composure. He very rarely has outward expressions of anger or anxiety or panic or anything like that. He's always very composed, very put together. So it will be interesting to see how he faces off this time. You know, he faced Thanos and his entire army on his own and was like, let's go, bro, I'm ready in it. About to get kill up real nice. Oh, sorry, I can't say that. YouTube's gonna take me down. About to get mash up real nice, bro. And he pulled up the straps on the mash up shield and was like, could do this all day, my G. And I found out like, let's take him out, my guys. And then obviously we know that absolutely tasty moment happened where Falcon was like, on your left, my G. And then the bags of Avengers, 400 million armies turned up. Captain America was like, listen, when the hammer came in his that scene was so sick. When the hammer came in his hand, like, Avengers assemble. I was like, bro, I've been waiting for you to say this line for like a decade, bro. Okay, not a decade. It was like 5 years, but it was so tasty. I was like, yes, but we finally said it. But yeah, anyway, I think it would be really, really cool to see to see the dynamic between Doom and Captain America in that regard. And of course, that continues on. It kind of bleeds into the same point, but Captain America being that sort of moral compass of the Avengers in a lot of ways, that was demonstrated, of course, within not only the Battle of New York in Avengers 1, but all the way up to Civil War, which is also a Captain America film, even though it felt like an Avengers film. But he's constantly that guy who's like, this is what I think and this is what I believe, and I'm not going to change it. I'm not going to just break down and go against what I think and believe because other people are shouting or other people are saying something loudly or they believe in it wholeheartedly. I know what I know and I believe what I believe, and I'm going to stick with that. And of course, we saw that more so in Civil War than even in Avengers 1. But when they had, you know, the whole issue with the Accords, and he was like, listen, man, I ain't signing that, big man. I ain't signing it. And I was like, listen, bro, if you sign it, yeah, it's actually not that bad. And then Captain America was like, nah, bro, can't do that. We're taking away the 1-2 powers we got to have these man tell us what to do. No way, big man. And yeah, those two probably should have sat down and really talked it out, and they probably would have avoided that whole airport fight scene. But that scene was really sick, so well, I'm kind of glad they didn't fully talk it out, or we wouldn't have that really cool scene. But yeah, it was a good demonstration of how stalwart Captain America is in terms of his morals, and his leadership then comes as a specific package or a specific presentation style, and that based upon that. So seeing how that now will juxtapose with Thor's style of leadership, I think will be quite interesting. Based on the trailer for Doomsday that we've seen so far, Thor appears to be the leader of this team. So it'll be interesting. Captain America is very easy in terms of falling in second in command. He's not always like, I need to be the one in charge. He's quite happy to be the person who's also taking orders. He's, you know, that was his profession for a long time. But it's interesting to see when he's not in charge, he still can give people commands and they follow and they listen. So seeing how that dynamic happens with a team that's very different to the one that he's normally a part of. Next to no one apart from Thor is the regular team he would be part of, that he's going to be telling people what to do now. So it'll be quite interesting. I mean, on top of that, with having someone like Bucky, who's in a different Avengers team, who's second in command of that team. And it will be like, oh, am I telling Bucky what to do now? Or are we sharing the commands, or like how's that gonna work? I'm looking forward to seeing how that kind of thing works, and also in terms of that morality thing, how that will play into his interactions with Doom, seeing how what Doom might or may not have done, things like that. We'll see what happens, but I think there's a lot of interesting elements that could play into having him be a little bit more of a darker version of Captain America. Nothing too grim or depressing, but just someone who's a little bit less, oh, this is the only way to do it, and I'm never going to change my thoughts and my feelings and my moral compass. But someone who's more like, listen, if we've got to kill Doom, we've got to I keep saying it, sorry. If we have to take out Doom, we've got to take him out, innit? So yeah, let's see what happens. I think that would be quite an interesting yeah, potential direction that the film could go in. Finally, oh dear, it's something that we saw he was willing to do in Endgame. Something he already did in Captain America: First Avenger. He also did it in Winter Soldier. Yeah, Winter Soldier. What was the other one? I think he's done it in almost every. He's done it in. Wait, hold on. I think he's done it in all of his films, in one way or another. Yeah, in all of his own personal films, but then he's also been willing to do it in some of the Avengers films as well. Is be that person who sacrifices himself in order to gain the victory, but also to be able to create a peaceful resolution. And of course, we saw that in the beginning in First Avenger, where he was like, "Oh, I got to take this plane down to be able to, take out the Red Skull, take out Tesseract, take out all of that stuff. But I have to make sure it happens by being in the plane as it goes down." And then in Winter Soldier, he was like, "Oh, I'm getting like 1-2 lick up by like Bucky and that, but I gotta dash myself out of this helicarrier and that, you know how it go." And you're like, what's with this guy? Like, has to be done, man. G, has to be done. He's like, not really, but it was a cool scene. And then in we'll do the callback again in Endgame when he was on his own against an entire galactic army, and he's like, if that's how it gotta be, in it, that's how it gotta be. He didn't know the backup was coming. He didn't know how that was gonna pan out. He was already getting beaten up. The shield that was invincible up until this point had been cracked, and he was like, just gotta pick up the broken thing, strap it up, get to business, innit? That's the kind of guy that he is. I mean, he even mentions it in the dialogue that he has with Iron Man in I think it's in the helicarrier in Avengers 1, when they're having that argument around the table, and he's like, "Oh, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. The guy who would lay himself down across the wire and let others walk over himself." He wasn't trying to be, arrogant or bragging, but he's shown, both of them, funnily enough, Iron Man and Captain America, have both shown that they were that kind of person. Captain America was talking about himself when he said that. He was like, "Oh, you're not the guy to make the sacrifice play. I would be someone who would do that." But then in the exact same film, Iron Man proved that he would be that kind of person. And throughout the MCU, they both proved that they would be that kind of person. I don't see them breaking that now, going into Doomsday. And that's what kind of scares me, that they're going to make him do that again. And this time he might not walk away from it. And I'm like, oh no, panicking, I can't lie, panicking. I haven't seen no Captain America shield yet, I mean, in the trailer. In his preview one we did, but I don't know if I'm getting kind of scared of that still. But yeah, let's see what happens. I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to seeing Captain America in this new Doomsday film. I think it's really cool that they brought Steve Rogers back, and that they're giving him another chance to just have a showcase of why he's such a great character, why he's such a cornerstone, an important cornerstone of the MCU, and also hopefully giving one last hurrah to his character before we put it to bed, essentially, and move on to greener and newer pastures. Certainly not necessarily greener ones, but just newer pastures, new directions, new characters, and all of those wonderful things. But it's nice to let Chris Evans have one last shot at it and show us just why he's so good in the character of Captain America. So, what did you think? What do you feel about Captain America's appearance in Doomsday? Let me know in the comments. Share, like, subscribe, hype if that little thing comes up in the video. I think it's only on mobile, but if it comes up, please clicky that thing and all of that wonderful, lovely stuff. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.